There was a time when almost all the shops were locally owned and run. Altham's was started as a tea merchants and grocers by Abraham Altham, who was the son of the village schoolmaster at Haggate. By the time of his early death in 1885, he was the largest grocer in the north of England and had founded the travel business, which survives to this day. These posters show how the early day trips for working families were organised. It's clear that cheap travel, made possible by the railways, played a large part in the success of Abraham's idea, and as you can see, he could not resist advertising what was then his main business.
One of the things that played a big influence in our life was the cinema, but the thing I hated most was Pearson Strip. Pearson was probably a manufacturer who would rob the people working for him, or paid poor wages, and a touch of conscience, he decided to take the poor children to the day out. 2 or 3 ladies and gentlemen, well dressed, very smart, would knock on your door. "Have you had a holiday?" "Yes, we've been to Fleetwood." Cross your name off the list. Next door. "Have you had a holiday?" "No." Because very few children had ever left Burnley in those days. Right, you can go on Pearson Strip. A certain day during the week, a bunch of charabancs, as we call them, coaches would pull up, and the children would pile in. They'd get a bottle of lemonade, a Mars bar, a packet of crisps, and take it to a big field at Worley. There they had sports. I was saying earlier about the influence of the cinema. It was a very big influence because we reenacted those things in our play. You would go home with an orange, a pea shooter, an handful of rice from the pantry, and you go into God's. Now, it was twopence to go in, but we said, "I've only 3 acres, Mr. Bradley." He stood outside. "I've only 3 acres, Mr. Bradley. I've only a penny, Mr. Bradley. I've only 3 acres, Mr. Bradley. I have nothing, Mr. Bradley. Only a halfpenny." He'd get you all together, and he knew damn well you got a pocket full of toffee. You'd had the money to go to the pictures, but you bought some toffees. Well, you get a lot of toffees for a halfpenny. And he would say, "Right, there's 10 of you. That's the George Street gang of 12 of you." He'd let you in with 6 tickets. That kept him okay with the income tax people. We'd be in the Gods, and the favourite sport up there was chucking orange peel and apple cores at the girls down below and spitting rice at them through pea shooters. When the villain crept up behind the hero, I'd look out, he's behind."
The Big Wheel, another Burnley shop, was famous as coffee grinders. Lots of older people remember the marvellous smell of freshly ground and roasted coffee coming from the shop on St James Street. The shop has been reconstructed at Townley Hall's Craft Museum. Bourne's, which specialises in ladies' wear, is still with us. Many people will remember Cunliffe's Grocers and Health Food stall in the Market Hall. According to a 1938 Burnley FC booklet, they sold fresh ground pure coffee at 6pence, or 2.5p a quarter, special brown breads at 3pence halfpenny or 6pence, vitamin nut margarine at 7pence per pound, and nut lard for baking and frying at 6pence per pound. The advert concludes with the following words: "Tell your wife to shop at Cunliffe's." Would this be allowed today? Another famous shop was Come and Have a Looks, otherwise known as Carella's.
The people were very poor. There was the dole, 7 and 6 a week. There was a Minsters where they came and took things out and sold them for coppers. All you needed was a bed, a table and chair. The Maypole and Meadow dairies used to stay open till 10:30 at night. I've seen the lads swilling off at 10 o'clock at night. And they'd walk in, 2 ounces of butter. And, you know, they used to knock it up on a paddy, a salted paddy. 2 ounces of tea at 10 o'clock at night. They used to go around the market at 10 o'clock Saturday night, have any cut apples, cheap stuff that, you know, wouldn't keep over the weekend. Oh yes, people were poor, all right. And it showed.
I remember when trade was bad in the cotton industry, and I'd been to sign on at the Labour Exchange one morning, and it was coming up to autumn, and I came down Manchester Road and I looked in this shop and I saw the coat and I thought, I'd like that coat. And so I went in and I said, could I try that coat on, please? And she said, you can. I tried it on and I said, well, I'm afraid I can't pay you for it now, but I can put some money down for it. And I'll call in at the weekend for it. And she said, what's your name? So I told her. And she says, where do you live? And I said, in Hallside. Well, she said, you could take the coat. She says, I know that I always get paid from the people in Hallside. It's this lot at the top of Manchester Road.
Of course, the largest business of this kind in town was the Burnley Equitable Cooperative and Industrial Society. It was founded in 1860, though it was reformed 2 years later. The co-op had shops and workshops in almost every district of Burnley, but it came to dominate Hamerton Street, where the old central stores still stand. Some of the buildings were opened by Thomas Hughes, the early socialist and author of Tom Brown's School Days. You name it, the co-op sold it, made it, or supplied it. Everything from the cradle to the grave. Shopping in Burnley is very different today, but it has taken longer in this part of Lancashire for modern shopping to catch on. The reduction in the number of local firms started with the arrival of Woolworths in 1924. They took over the premises of Collinges, the large local furniture and carpet dealers. Woolworths opened one of their well-known threepenny and sixpenny stores. It was an instant success, and Woolworths still operate in town, though in new premises. Marks & Spencer's came to Burnley in 1935, but unlike Woolies, they demolished a block of buildings in St James Street. Again, Marks & Sparks are still with us, and though on the same site, considerable expansion has taken place. It was in 1977 that Sainsbury's announced that they were looking for sites in Lancashire. 5 years later, they were said to be poised to build a giant superstore in Burnley, and in 1984 it was opened. The store was built on the site of Burnley's famous Odeon Cinema. By this time, there was much talk of out-of-town developments, and the council welcomed such a large store in the town centre.